It's another massive U-turn from Chancellor Rachel Reeves, and now she is at war with Ed Miliband. Remember when she told the Bank of England to treat climate change as the same priority level as economic growth? Well, now it's all about a third runway at Heathrow.
I have always been clear that a third runway at Heathrow would unlock further growth, boost investment, increase exports, and make the UK more open and more connected. So I can confirm today that this government supports a third runway at Heathrow and is inviting proposals to be brought forward by the summer.
That's interesting because Keir Starmer is, as you can see, on record opposing it and actually congratulating climate campaigners who wanted to block it. London Mayor Sadiq Khan has come out and said that he's opposing it because of noise and pollution. Now, unfortunately for Sadiq, there is another solution to the so-called climate crisis. 1 in 12 people in London are here illegally, so if we deported them, think about how much less CO2 there'd be in the capital. Dale Vince, the former Just Stop Oil donor turned Labour Party donor, has come out against it. But the big one, and this is the story, is Ed Miliband. Rachel Reeves has gone to war with climate lunatic Ed Miliband, and only one of them can survive. Miliband is bullish, saying the expansion of Heathrow won't go ahead if it doesn't meet climate targets. He didn't turn up to Reeves's growth speech. He didn't turn up to Prime Minister's questions, apparently. Where is he? Well, in 2009, Ed Miliband threatened to resign if a Heathrow expansion went ahead. Surely now he's got to go then, hasn't he? Earlier this week, it emerged that man of the people, Red Ed, has employed a taxpayer-funded vanity photographer to follow him around and make him look good. Well, GBNews has just come into possession of a leaked photo that very photographer took the moment he found out about Reeves backing the airport expansion. Oh, look at him. He's gutted, isn't he? Absolutely fuming. Oh, hang on. What's that? Sorry. Wait. We've got some breaking news for you right now. Breaking news. I'm hearing that we've managed to track down Ed Miliband this evening, and he's at a meeting with Sadiq Khan and Dale Vince. Should we drop in on them? Oh, just crying away out there. So sad. Oh, would you look at that? They are gutted, bless them. Absolutely gutted. The fact is, at some point, Keir Starmer is going to have to choose between Rachel from Accounts and Red Ed, the wind farm hugger. I think that Ed will probably be the one to go. He's embroiled in a bit of an alleged scandal when it comes to Dale Vince donating to the Labour Party and then mysteriously being offered a contract to build a massive solar farm. That is a classic example of, if the Tories did it, Paul Brand from ITV wouldn't have shut up about it, would he? According to Dale Vince, there's absolutely nothing to see here.
This solar farm was submitted under the Conservative government about 3 years ago and went through the independent process, the planning process that's run, that reports to DESNZ. Ed Miliband simply became the new Minister for DESNZ, reported to by this body. There were no objections to this project and it was approved by the inspectorate. And it was Ed Miliband's job either to agree with that or not to agree with that. But I've never spoken to him about it. And so there's actually no connection. But what you've just raised is a perfect example of why we should publicly fund our political parties and our elections.
Great haircut, isn't it? Miliband's bet the house on GB Energy. Well, should we just check in on how it's going? Oh, it isn't. Nobody really knows what it is. They say that they want to decarbonise the power sector by 2030, which is 5 years away, and it appears they haven't even appointed a HR officer. Yeah, they're advertising for one online. We are looking for a senior HR professional. There we go. I mean, is GB Energy just a care home for trots? I'll tell you what, though, listening to her voice.
Economic growth is the #1 mission of this government. Without growth, we cannot cut hospital waiting lists or put more police on the streets. Without growth, we cannot meet our climate goals or give the next generation the opportunities that they need to thrive.
So wooden birds are nesting in it. It makes you want to run your nails down a chalkboard for a bit of respite, doesn't it? She wants growth, but listen to this critique by Ryanair boss Michael O'Leary.
I get a letter back this week from some dopey junior minister, James Murray, who's the Exchequer Secretary to the Treasury. Probably shows you just how out of touch Her Majesty's Treasury are with reality. If Rachel Rubbish is serious about delivering growth, abolish aviation tax.
Hello? Yeah, is that the police? Yeah, I'd just like to report a murder, please. Yeah, there we go. Anyway, hopefully they'll get to that in about 3 years' time. Rachel Reeves couldn't grow a plant, let alone our economy, and now the Labour cabinet is at war. They're dumb. Let's get the thoughts of my panel this evening. Director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood. We've got businessman and activist Adam Brooks and broadcaster Nina Mishkov. Mark, Reeves or Miliband, who wins, who survives? Only one of them, surely.
I wonder whether I should place a bet with you, Patrick. I think Ed Miliband's more likely to prevail here than Rachel Reeves, actually. I mean, I would be willing on Rachel Reeves. I mean, it's a bit of a choice between a rock and a hard place. But despite her appalling delivery, it looks like the scales may have fallen from her eyes. They haven't yet worked out what trade-offs they face there. You've basically got to choose between growth and carbon net zero. The idea that you can merge the two together is absolutely fanciful. So it might be that one of them wins, one of them loses. They might just ground into a stalemate where they sort of pretend they're going to go ahead with Heathrow expansion or other airport, but it never really happens. But, you know, why have they changed their mind on all of this? The facts around Heathrow haven't changed in recent years. I mean, for crying out loud, we haven't increased runway capacity in any airport in London or the South East since 1945.
It's ridiculous.
It's absolutely absurd.
Yeah.
So you've got to really choose whether you want, as a strategy, this green carbon net zero path. If you do, don't expect economic growth, or whether you're going to abandon that and go a build path. But you can't really have half of each.
We now have, it's finally happening. It's a little bit like how one day the trans lobby will meet the pro-Palestinians and there'll be some kind of epic battle royale. But this is what's happening now when it comes to net zero and economic growth, right? And it's happening. It's playing out before our eyes. Can I just give you an early citer, by the way, of the front of the Daily Telegraph? Heathrow will not be ready until 2050. So, despite what Rachel Reeves might say, we've got 25 years. Is that right? Yeah, 25 years. My maths is great. To get this off the ground. By the way, look, who's going to win this? Miliband or
as well, this was first tabled in 2002. So that was 23 years ago they first proposed to do this. And it might not be built till 2050. This country is a joke. Can you imagine China going through this? Yeah. They build power stations in like 6 months. We are a joke. And net zero, for me, is a joke, a dangerous joke as well. It's on unproven science, it's on modelling, and we see how modelling went during COVID. We are risking our future of blackouts, we are risking being skint for a gamble on what climate could do. The choice between Ed Miliband and Rachel Reeves, for me, is like two rotting teeth. What one do you pull out first? I would say that Ed Miliband, hopefully he goes first, because we might be able to undo the wasted billions that he's promising everyone, you know?
He threatened to resign in, I think it was 2008 or 2009. He threatened to resign over this same issue. And he's here again in a very similar position. Surely he has to do the honourable thing, Nina, doesn't he, and fall on his sword again.
That was 16 years ago and a very different life, and a lot can happen and people can change their minds, and you shouldn't be held responsible for something you said 16 years ago. Having said that, I think that Ed Miliband and the fact that he is such a
fanatic,
an enthusiast,
an extremist.
Or enthusiast.
So he's so enthusiastic, and the fact that he is in the cabinet is a very healthy sign. You need to have all kinds of views in a cabinet, and the very fact that Rachel Reeves has one view and Keir Starmer agrees with her, they are the power team in that cabinet, obviously. But you say you can only have one. You can't have both. You can have both. If you're looking at ways of offsetting, you look at the fuel, aviation fuel, green aviation fuel. That by the time the third runway comes, that will be something that will be a very potent thing. But listen. What I take issue with is Adam saying that the science is dodgy. Do you not believe in climate change?
I don't believe in it, the way they push it on us, and it is all on modelling. It doesn't matter what you say. COVID modelling was completely...
Never mind COVID.
What I'd quite like to drag us back to is the major issue, if you don't mind, is the major issue at play here, which is the internal war in the Labour Party.
I think it's considerably... I don't think you can have this diversity of opinions around the cabinet table and expect a coherent strategy.
Agreed.
So it's not just carbon net zero. You've got the Department for Culture, media and sport wanting to regulate football, probably our most successful industry over the past 20 years. Well, that's an anti-growth strategy. You've got Angela Rayner wanting to bring in, which we saw Kemi Badenoch at Prime Minister's Questions, whole bunch of red tape on employing people. You might be in favour of that for fairness of work, but that's an anti-growth strategy. So you've got Rachel Reeves around the table saying she apparently wants to deregulate, build things, get on with it, increase infrastructure, and virtually everybody else pursuing a strategy that isn't aligned with economic growth.
But we can have this farcical situation, conceivably, where the Labour Mayor of London and the Labour net zero minister, Ed Miliband, are lying down in front of the bulldozers at Heathrow while Rachel Reeves tries to drive it over the top of it.
Well, they'll be like that for the next 25 years.
One thing with Sadiq Khan, like him and his C40 Cities group, they are a dangerous climate extremist group that work with Michael Bloomberg. They basically want to phase out flying in the next 20 or 30 years. So I'm pleased that maybe people with a bit of sense in the Labour Party are putting this country before this net zero nuttiness.
Okay.
So it's a good thing.
It's not net zero nuttiness. It is not. You have to look at California. Look what's just happened there.
There's nothing to do with climate change.
Oh, you say
Please,
I think you'll find that most scientists who know more about it disagree with you.
The scientists that are paid by the people with a lot of money might agree with it. Yes, Nina.
It's not just the science. The issue
is the science.
It's not.
It is the science.
Even if you think
you're a climate denier, how can you be that?
Even if it's not. You don't need to.
They were wrong in COVID.
No, they weren't wrong in COVID.
You don't need to be a climate denier. You can be sceptical about how much salvation it will bring to the world if the UK gets to carbon net zero. We are 0.8% of all global carbon emissions. If you could just click your fingers now for free and make that 0%, it wouldn't make much difference.
Yes, go for it.
Can I ask you, do you think if look, Keir Starmer needs a win, right? He needs a bump in the polls.
Yeah.
And I would suggest that maybe it's quite an easy win for him to get rid of Ed Miliband, who a lot of people do think is a little bit of a fanatic. You would describe it as enthusiastic, fine. But he's got this real ideological push for net zero, despite the cost. It doesn't matter what the cost. He could sideline him, I think, and actually might get a bump in the polls.
There's no question of sidelining him. They take all his opinions, take all those things, and then do what you want anyway. You have to drive through, and that doesn't mean that he is out on his ear or there's something that he somehow failed. He's part of that team. As I said, it's a healthy debate to have all viewpoints, and it's not healthy for you to say.
It's my opinion, Nina. No disrespect. China are building gas power stations by the minute. America is now fracking, and
building more wind farms than anyone else in the world.
Affect the climate.
We cannot then tell China or India or the states that they need to reduce their carbon emissions, because we wouldn't have a leg to stand on. We need to lead the way.
We've done more for our carbon emissions than any other country, I believe, in the world since 1995.
And that's about the only thing we can lead on in this day and age.
The government is going to continually be divided about this. This is the new dividing line for the Labour government, and I don't think they can resolve it whether Reeves or Miliband comes out on top.
Reeves and Starmer will win.
Well, I agree with you on that, but purely because of the axis between Chancellor and Prime Minister. But Mark might be right, I don't know. But Miliband can't hide forever. I mean, he wasn't at this growth things, and I don't think he was at PMQs either.
He's not always. They're not all always there.
Always there. But you would expect.
He's definitely run for cover.
Maybe he'd get his guitar and do a silly song and post it on the internet in a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
you know?
it's a ukulele.
Don't.
It's a ukulele.
Sorry.
You need to have extreme views so that you can meet in the middle.
Not around the cabinet
That's a lovely way of putting it.
Not around the cabinet.
It's a lovely way of putting it. I think at this point as well, I have to say something along the lines of, I think Sadiq Khan would deny that he's an extremist when it comes to the climate. To clarify that. Anyway, took myself an even bigger hole there.